Hi, I wanted to talk about a supposed contradiction that I hear people talk about most of the time. And it's interesting because the answer is right there on the page. I've had pastors and even Bible teachers, when they're teaching Matthew 1, okay, the genealogy of Jesus, and they begin with Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham, and work down to Jesus. And then you have Luke chapter 3, which begins with Joseph and works down, of course, to Adam, who is the son of God. And people will say, well, Matthew is the genealogy of Joseph, but the one in Luke is Mary's genealogy, but it doesn't say that. It says that that Jesus himself began to be about 30 years old, being, as supposed, the son of Joseph. Now people will go, see, contradictions. We have two different lineages, but let me explain what's going on here, and it's very simple. When you're dealing with Matthew, it begins with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and it goes down through Perez, and then it goes through Salmon to Boaz, to Obed, to David, and then you go down through all the kings until you get to the fall of Jerusalem with the Babylonians. Then you go through men who are in the captivity, then you go to men who are in the post-captivity, those that came back after Ezra and Nehemiah, and then you have Mathan, and Mathan gave birth to Jacob, and Jacob gave Joseph, who was espoused to, but the stepfather of Jesus. And then when you look at Luke is a different point of view. You've got Jesus being 30 years, like I said, son of Joseph, the son of Heli, son of Matha, the son of Levi, son of Joseph, another Joseph, and Matthias, and he goes down to Nathan. Then you go to David. Then you go straight down to Abraham. And of course, from Abraham, you go straight down to Adam. Is this a contradiction? No. And you know why? Because Joseph had two different dads. In other words, he was raised by a stepdad. What makes sense is, and I live that life here, I have a stepdad. When you look at Matthew, you are looking at his legal line. This is legal. This is biological. If you look at Luke, and Luke went and talked to people who lived in the area of Jesus, you would get the family line. Because these are the ones that he was raised around, the family line versus the legal line. Now, this makes sense to me because my dad was Doyle, but my stepdad was Bill. So biologically, I go through Doyle and would go back up one chain. Legally, but in familiar terms, as family, I would go through Bill and go up through his dad, and on up we go. So there is no contradiction here. Jesus goes back to David, not only through Solomon and all the kings, but he also goes back to Nathan, who was a prophet king. There you go. He was related to both. One was through his biological dad, and one was through his stepdad. It's still legal, it's still there, and Jesus is still Lord. He's tied to a king, and he's tied to a prophet. There's your answer.